Am I the jerk for defending myself with my sister after taking legal custody of my nephew? My husband, a 30-year-old male, and I, a 30-year-old female, won legal custody of my nephew, Keon, a 15-year-old male, in June. Since September 2022, Keon had been living with us on and off. It started out with the intent to be temporary, but my sister would take Keon back and then send him to live with us again. She would visit him frequently at times and then go weeks without any contact. She would vent to me about it and then complain that we were not fulfilling our end of the agreement. Keon wanted to stay with me, my husband, and our children. We knew it was not good for Keon to have the back and forth and inconsistency. We knew he wanted to be with us, so we asked the courts to give us legal custody instead of having a family agreement going on. Even during court proceedings, my sister would take Keon back and then send him to us again. A therapist was involved, and someone from Child Protective Services. They ultimately decided my husband and I should have custody. Keon is my sister's oldest child. She had him with her late husband, Sean. Sean died when Keon was 5 years old. When Keon was 7 years old, my sister met her second husband, and she married him about 18 months after they first met. She now has more children with her second husband. Keon was distant with them from the start. He was civil to my sister's husband, but also expressed that he did not want his mother to get married again. My sister chose to ignore it at the time, and convinced herself that Keon would come around and would love having a father in the house again. He was disinterested in his younger half-siblings from the start. It was only when my sister read some homework Keon had done, and had answered a question with "I don't have siblings," that she started to take it seriously. My sister decided they needed family therapy. Keon was open that he did not have any feelings for his half-siblings or stepfather. He hated spending time with them and wished it could be just him and his parents again. Keon's honesty during the homework that he would never treasure memories with his half-siblings was when my sister first asked us to take him in. She wanted him to work on that. She hoped distance would make him realize he did care or would make him more willing to try, but it didn't. He likes not seeing them. He likes seeing my sister, misses her, and gets upset when he does not, but he has never once missed his stepfather or half-siblings. My sister is furious that we went for legal custody, and even more furious that we won. She asked how I could do that, and I told her we had spoken about the upheaval not being good for anyone, but she was still back and forth with Keon. I told her I had to put him first when she was making his life so unstable. She asked how I could defend myself when I made sure Keon cannot reconcile with them now. I told her she could still see him, the judge even said it, and she could always work on committing to him. She said I was punishing her just as much as Keon is, and she'll never forgive me for it. Am I the asshole? You are not the cause of this issue. It's commendable to step up and help a kid whose mother prioritized her own desires over his well-being. Keon clearly needed time and understanding, but his mother seemed more interested in creating a new family without considering his feelings. It's no wonder things didn't go perfectly when she never truly cared about what he wanted. Helping him now shows that someone is finally putting his needs first. Am I the jerk for bringing an uninvited guest to a destination wedding? I, 26-year-old female, was invited to a wedding within my state, but far enough that I needed to stay at a hotel for at least 2 nights. I was very flattered to be invited, as I didn't think I was that close to the couple. It was a fairly small wedding with around 60 guests, including the bridal party. Since it was a very small wedding and I was possibly a second-round invitee, I didn't get a +1. That was fine with me. I ultimately decided to go. When I went to book the hotel room, I found they only had large rooms available, such as multiple beds or king beds, as it's a popular wedding destination and a bit fancy. So I thought, why not invite my boyfriend, 26-year-old male? That way, we could trade off on the long drive there and back and share the big room I would have to pay for anyway. The idea was that on the night we arrived, we could get dinner together somewhere new and have a nice breakfast before heading back home. While I was at the wedding events, he could just hang out in the hotel room or the pool. The wedding went great. After it wrapped up, the maid of honor, whom I'm closer to than the bride, was chatting with me as I walked back to my room. I knocked on the door instead of digging through my bag for the key card. When my boyfriend opened the door for me, the maid of honor just greeted him and walked off. I didn't think it was a big deal. A few days later, the maid of honor reached out and said it was awkward and uncomfortable for me to have invited him to the hotel. She said it made everyone feel bad and weird that he was there waiting for the wedding to end when they hadn't invited him. We were both a bit surprised. No one even knew he was there because it didn't come up at all during the wedding. It wasn't a secret, and honestly, we wouldn't have thought it was a big deal if people did know. He had met the bride and groom about 6 times and had 0 issues with not being invited to such an intimate wedding. Also, if it matters, I was far from the only guest who didn't get a +1, and I never asked to be given a +1 for him. I have no clue if the maid of honor told the bride, and if the bride also thinks this was inappropriate. If she hasn't, I really don't want to contact her during her honeymoon to start drama. I didn't check or anything beforehand, so was inviting him really a big deal? You did nothing improper. This whole situation is really strange. Folks seem to be trying to create a problem when one doesn't exist. Both you and your boyfriend were happy to make the trip, and he willingly spent some alone time at the hotel without intruding on the wedding. The whole incident just doesn't make sense, so it's best to just move on. Am I the jerk for my behavior at a buffet? Hi everyone, I am a 28-year-old female and recently reconnected with a friend who is a 27-year-old female from high school. Let's name her Brenna. We were really close, like inseparable, but the distance after we moved away inevitably caused our friendship to dwindle. I recently moved to her city with my husband, and it was like nothing had changed. After a few one-on-one lunches, she wanted to introduce me to some of her other friends from university. We decided on an upscale buffet at a hotel. The university she went to was known for its extremely wealthy and privileged students. Coming from an upper-middle-class background, I was not really sure what to expect or what we'd have to connect on, but she assured me it would be okay, and that everyone was really down to earth. I got along with everyone really well. The conversations were engaging, and we all bounced off of each other nicely with the banter. She booked it on a Monday afternoon, so it would be relatively less crowded, so none of us would have trouble communicating. But here's where I think everything went wrong. There was a short queue behind me, consisting of 3 people, all in our party, one of whom included Brenna. While I was trying to scoop a stew for myself, I accidentally grabbed a scoopful of vegetables instead of soup. On my second scoop, I decided to do the opposite so that I could get a balance of both, since my first scoop hardly contained any soup. I stopped after 2 scoops and turned to see Brenna staring at me with an appalled expression. I was really puzzled, but I kept on walking back to our table so I was not blocking anyone's way and figured I should ask her about it later. For the rest of the lunch, I noticed Brenna acting really strange. She was limiting her interactions with me and avoiding eye contact with me. Another friend, a 28-year-old male, even asked her about this, and she dismissed the question by saying, "I don't know what you're talking about." After we all said goodbye, I received a series of texts from Brenna saying how disgustingly low class I acted in front of her friends. I asked her what she meant, and she referred to how I selectively scooped the minestrone in front of her and how it's extremely poor etiquette to pick and choose portions at a buffet. I tried explaining to her it was an accident, and I had not intentionally tried to do what she was explaining, but she said I was still holding up the line. I apologized for that, and she has not responded since. I apologized to the 2 other people that were waiting behind me, but they did not know what I was talking about. I explained to them what Brenna saw, and they said she was being a pompous ass and told me to forget about it. Now I have no idea what to feel because I initially felt extremely guilty when Brenna confronted me, but hearing these 2 say, "It's no big deal" is really making me wonder. I would love some other opinions. Thanks. Edit to add, wow, obligatory I was not expecting this to blow up comment. But seriously, it was about soup. Nonetheless, I truly want to thank everyone for your kind words and insights. I've made plans with one of the ladies I met. Brenna still has not responded, but thanks to you all, I know I do not need her to, and I better hope she does not. Brenna is being absolutely ridiculous about this whole thing. It's a buffet, not a Michelin star restaurant, and there's no such thing as buffet etiquette. It's all about getting what you want and sitting down to enjoy your meal. It sounds like she's just trying to make you feel bad over something trivial, so tell her to stop being a human donut and relax. Am I the jerk for letting my father's ex meet my baby before him and his current girlfriend? Over a decade ago, my father dated Nina, a fake name, for 4 years. I was a teenager at the time, and we got along well. After they broke up, she bonded with my mother and eventually became a family friend. My father was aware that my sister and I were still close with Nina. He didn't like it, but he knew he couldn't stop it. He's been dating Polly, also a fake name, for 4 years. I don't mind her, but we're not close, and I don't love spending time with her for various reasons. I had my second baby 3 weeks ago. When my eldest was born, I had a lot of people who wanted to meet him at the hospital, which became very overwhelming very quickly. So this time, my husband and I decided we would make better efforts to control who visited. When I started labor, my father let me know he was out of town for work and wouldn't be able to come see me at the hospital. He asked if Polly could come on her own, but she's weird about babies and made me very uncomfortable when my son was born, so I told my father I preferred she wait for him to return. I was in the hospital for 3 days after my daughter was born. When Nina called to congratulate me, I ended up inviting her over, as she worked nearby and was very helpful during my pregnancy. She agreed and met my baby the day before we went home. My father and Polly came to my place and met my daughter a little more than a week after she was born. Later, they started talking to my son, who was 4 years old, and he mentioned Aunt Nina had seen his baby sister at the hospital. They both left about an hour later. After the kids went to bed, my father confronted me about what my son had said. He said he was offended I'd allowed his ex to meet my baby before him and his girlfriend. Apparently, Polly was very hurt as well. I told him I didn't mean to offend anyone, but I had the right to choose who visited me after a major medical procedure. I don't think who gets to meet my baby first, which wasn't Nina, it was my mother this time, is a big deal. I also reminded them of the reasons I didn't want Polly to come on her own. My father is still offended that Nina met my daughter before he did. I understand where he's coming from, which is why I'm doubting myself. Am I the asshole? You did nothing to deserve criticism. Dad needs to realize Nina is no longer his ex but his Aunt Nina, and what you do with her isn't really relevant to him any longer. Polly not liking babies is cool. Every family needs one baby hater as a control against baby fever. Remind your father that he could have met the baby earlier if he hadn't been out of town. It's just how the timing worked out. Am I the jerk for refusing to watch my in-laws' dog while they're out of town? My in-laws have asked my husband and me to watch their dog at their house while they are out of town from Christmas to New Year's. They take this trip twice a year, once in the summer and once in the winter, and typically we have been the ones asked to watch the dog, to which we have agreed in the past. This is the first time we have refused. The dog is 14 years old. She has a very strict food diet and a strict medicine regime. The dog is deaf, wears diapers at night, struggles to stay asleep, and struggles with obsessive-compulsive disorder. We have watched her several times previously, and it has been difficult to keep track of her while we both try to work. We both work from home, and as time has gone on and she has gotten older, it gets more difficult. My husband has to sleep in a separate room with the dog so that I can get a good night's sleep, which is not fair to him either in my opinion. Aside from the responsibilities of caring for the dog, we would be staying at their house, meaning we would be working from their couch, leaving our home office with multiple monitors and desk space at home. My job is pretty demanding, and working from a single laptop can be difficult at times. Their Wi-Fi is not great either, which has made my Zoom meetings a nightmare. This would be between Christmas and New Year's, meaning that we would spend this time away from our friends, sitting in their house with nothing to do during the holidays. We live about 3 hours away. Despite all this, we still feel like the bad people because his parents have no one else to watch the dog. There aren't care facilities around here that would accommodate the dog's needs, and they do not feel comfortable having a stranger handle all of the responsibility. By us refusing to go, they likely will not be able to go on their trip that they have already made accommodations for, and they will guilt us for this. At the same time, we think it is inconsiderate to broadly assume that we would watch their dog and make travel accommodations without explicitly asking, even if we have watched her in the past. Not to mention that it is a ton of additional responsibility they are asking of us while we are also working. We feel that since it is their dog, ultimately it is their responsibility to care for her when she is this old with such high needs. Am I the asshole? You behave properly. Their dog, their choice, their responsibility. Your in-laws can't just take your holidays from you like that. They will have plenty of time to make arrangements, like finding a good kennel or bonded pet sitter, so it's really too much to ask of someone over the holidays. Am I the jerk for telling my spouse to drop an issue that our child is having at school? My wife, who is 36-year-old female, and I, a 35-year-old male, have 2 children, a 10-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son. We live in a school district that has already started school, and our children have been in classes for about 2 to 3 weeks now. Our daughter has been having an issue with her lunch being stolen a few times a week. The school offers breakfast and lunch, but it is not free. We always put money in accounts for the children in case they want to eat school lunch instead of what we pack for them, so our daughter does not go hungry even if her lunch is taken. She also does not have any dietary restrictions. My wife works the night shift as a nurse, so I am the one getting the children up and ready for school in the morning, including packing lunches. I put their names on everything. My daughter has told me every time that her lunch was taken. The first few times I asked her to just eat school lunch, but she does not always like what they offer. I started making 2 lunches for her and told her to hide one in her backpack instead of bringing it into the classroom where the other lunches are. I have also talked with her teacher about it, and she said she would be more vigilant about the lunches. That has not stopped them from being stolen. My daughter is not the only one having this issue. My wife is upset about it and wants to bring it up to the principal, superintendent, and school board. She thinks that whoever is stealing from our daughter is a thief and has some kind of grudge against our daughter. I, however, have a different view on it. The way I see it, whoever is taking lunches probably needs that food more than my daughter does. If their family had means of providing packed lunches, I would assume they would do so. The same goes for putting money in an account for school lunch. My feeling is that whichever child is stealing lunches is hungry, and I do not want to compound that by making this a bigger issue. The teacher is already aware, and I do not feel we need to elevate this beyond that. Our family is not in dire straits financially. We do just fine. But I know that is not the case for everyone. If packing 2 lunches for my daughter means that a hungry child gets a solid meal, I am okay with it coming out of our pockets. My wife and I got into an argument about this because she wants to send an email to anyone and everyone at the school district that she feels needs to know about this. I told her that we should wait and see if the teacher can figure out who the child is, and we can handle this without bringing the whole school district down on this child and their family. My wife wants to set up meetings with the teacher and principal, but I told her she would need to be the one attending them because I will not. Since she usually sleeps during the day when the children are in school, she did not like that. She thinks I am being inconsiderate by not protecting our daughter, but our daughter is not going hungry, and whoever is taking her lunches is not either, which I am okay with. It seems like there's a kind and generous intent here, but if the lunch thief isn't identified, they won't receive the help they actually need. Knowing who the child is could allow the school to step in and offer proper assistance, which would be far more effective. Escalating the situation might be necessary to ensure the child gets real support. There are no jerks here, OP, just a complicated situation requiring more attention. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.